What are some sleepers?
So I know I'm gonna get flamed for this, but at the high power level, I'm 100% on the Null Elemental Blast bandwagon for Sans blue decks. Because, hear me out. Everybody's now starting to run give stuff flash speed, so you're seeing a lot of emergent zone lands and a lot of utility lands that give stuff flash speed. So with that in Commander, I think Null Elemental Blast is an excellent addition for any non-blue deck running it. Because think about it like this. There's only, like, out of all of the top 16 commanders, it pretty much hits every single one of them for one colorless mana. All your gemstones, all your, what's the new, Horizon land? Horizon of Progress, which I'll talk about in a couple of seconds. It hits all of those for one colorless. That's super easy to manage, especially in a format where we run Ancient Tomb, Emergent Zone, Gemstone Cavern. No, it's Caverns, right? And all of the lands that tap for colorless, just because we have all of Soul Ring, Mana Crypt, all of the fast mana. So people saying that it's bad, I'm just like, that seems so backwards, because at worst, it's a one-cost removal spell for nearly every commander. Your Kroms, Tymnas, Thrasioses, Kinnins. What else? No, you still have to pay like 3 or 4 for, what's his face? The big bird man who's angry all the time. Tidin. But for the most part, everything that you want to hit, it hits. Minus a few of the monocolored commanders, obviously. And every other major, like, the only thing it doesn't hit is like major win cons. Oh, it hits Lotho too. So yeah, like, there's no reason not to run it. Especially since how cheap it is. Like, it just doesn't hit like some of the major like pieces, but it hits Mnemonic Betrayal. It hits the green black no, what's the green black ritual that destroys everything and makes mana for it? Calling Ritual?
Yeah, calling ritual.
It stops that. All for one colorless, which is super easy. So the fact is, I think that's going to see a lot of play in Sam's blue deck. So your Corvalds, your Selvalas / Yisons, if Yison ever makes a comeback. I don't think he will, but my friend keeps fighting the good fight in Vengeance Sparrow. Shout out to you, man. And every deck like that. So Jund, Naya, Roko might actually, no, Roko's not gonna make a comeback. He needs a lot more help than that. But Naya, Jund, and what's the other non-blue decks that see Link play? I'll figure it out later, but those are pretty much where it's going to see play. Speaking on the flip side, if you are a blue player, I suggest finding a space for Strix Serenade. Love that card. It's absolutely fantastic. It's just hard going to be maneuvering a place for that, because we've reached a critical mass of free counter spells at this point that are just kind of generally good. I think it's actually better than Flare of Denial. That's going to be my hot take for this video, and hear me out. So Flare of Denial is great in Rogside decks if you can get Silas out, because it needs to be a blue creature. So if you can figure out a blue creature to get out fast, it is a great deck for that, and it will protect your Thassa Oracle by using by sacrificing the Thassa's Oracle. But that's super conditional, as opposed to just one blue mana counter the One Ring, Dockside Extortionist, Thassa's Oracle, Lotho, or any other Soul Ring, Mana Crypts. It's, I think, on par with Mental Misstep, because it hits so much more stuff for the same mana cost, theoretically. Although I know you can technically play Mental Misstep for free, but it hits a lot of the same stuff and hits more of it for just one blue mana, and kind of gives you a bit more versatility. I don't know if it stops Planeswalkers too, so your Okos, it will stop. Although I don't really know if any deck besides this one runs Oko. Speaking of this one of the cards I absolutely adore that I got for this deck was not Birthing Ritual, even though it's a pod deck, It's the new lizard wizard called Party Crasher or something like that. He's a 2-drop uncommon or rare that reads whenever you cast a spell or spells you would can cast from exile have convoke. So I don't know how many of you have seen or read Loot, but Loot pretty much plays half the deck through exile. And what that means is that all of my things that are out of my hand and in exile that I pseudo draw or impulse draw, I can just I'll just have to figure out what to take out because I've been kind of alternating between him and the doctor from Outlaws of the Graveyard cost 2 us as well, because that makes my brain freeze only cost 1 blue, and then I can do the Lotus Petal loop. And then I talked about it earlier, but the last card that I think is really good that I don't think people are talking about enough is Horizon of Progress. I think Horizon of Progress isn't the best land, but for all of the stuff it does, I think it's really seeing not as much hype as it should be. So, for example, for those who don't know what it does, it is a land that says pay 1, tap it, add a mana of any color equal to the lands you produce. That's kind of cringe, but you don't really care about that. Although I do think it taps for colorless, so it also fuels Null Elemental Blast, which we talked about earlier. You care about the other 2 abilities. The third ability, I think, is, if I remember correctly, pay 3 or pay 4. Put a land from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. I play a lot of Thrasher and Tymna, as you can see, and I play a lot of Seedborn Muse. So having I typically end up with a bunch of lands in hand. So getting a way to like get those out fast and not have to worry about that is super good for me. I don't really care if they come in tapped even at that point, because again, I'm getting more lands out than pretty much everybody else can deal with. So the next time I untap, if I don't lose, it's going to be a lot different in terms of mana differences and values, which I feel like is very much underappreciated because of the format we live in is so fast mana heavy. And then I also think you can put itself onto the battlefield regardless, and it can't be like countered in terms of like playing it as a land. But those are kind of, I guess, all of my major sleeper hits. The rest of stuff everybody's talking about. So if you have any, just go ahead and tell me.